Welcome back to my summer deep dive of the 2025 NFL draft class, and today we're talking about tight ends. I'm going to go over my top 10, but stick around until the end. I'm going to cover some of the guys who just missed the list, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this sucker with number 10. And that is Jake Briningstool out of Clemson, coming in at 6'6", 230 pounds, so on the lighter side. We'll talk about it in a second, but his father actually played linebacker at Michigan State, so a little pedigree in the family. Last year was Briningstool's first year as a full starter. Started 12 games, made third team all ACC, and the dude is an incredibly smooth athlete. Like, he is explosive. He's got good long speed. He's consistently pulling away from defenders, and in some case, quarterbacks. You go back to the Miami game last year where he did that to Davis, who was drafted, I believe, in like the 7th round. The 2024 NFL draft, but the dude plays with smooth hips, just very good at running, just good like tempo during his routes, knows how to fluctuate speeds and just kind of keep defenders guessing, just making him almost near impossible to guard at some points. Very sure hands. His drop rate 3.8% last season, exceptionally good. Got long arms, provides a good catch radius for the quarterback. He can do a better job attacking the ball in air and making better use of his length. We'll get to that when we talk about some of the cons with him, but this dude's coverage recognition is really darn good. It really is. You can see him searching for the soft spots in coverage, pre-snap, and trying to figure out how to attack those spots. He does a good job of working the middle of the field, finding space. That way, when he does catch the football, he can create some chunk yards after the catch. Very versatile blocker as well. I mean, given the size, inline is still kind of a work in progress, but I think he still does a relatively good job when asked to be inline. Does a good job of, at the very least, putting himself between the defender and the ball carrier. But I think where he is probably best used as is like this move blocker, this down blocker coming in the backfield. He just does a really good job of that. Again, the technique's good, but still needs to add some weight. The dude's got a slender build. He looks like more of a jumbo receiver. He's primarily lined up in the slot during his Clemson career. 59.7% of his snaps have come in the slot. That's over the course of his career, but he does have the room to add more mass. He is a bit of a body catcher. Told you we were going to get back to him not quite high pointing the football all the time. Again, the hands are sure, but in contested catch situations, you just don't see him high point the football. I just don't think I think he gets just too comfortable in letting the ball come into his body and just trapping it. Like, by no means were the contested catch numbers bad, like, or 45% on contested catches, solid number, but I feel like they could be so much better. On top of that, the yak ability, yards after the catch ability, outside of just running away from defenders, doesn't really do much of else. Like, he doesn't really have that wiggle or that twitch to kind of break down defenders in the open space. And even if he's just going to lower his shoulder, try to get a couple of extra yards, the play strength needs to be a little bit better. Again, currently at this size, seems more like a jumbo receiver, a big slot. Needs to add more weight, but does have the frame to do so. At number 9, I have Bryson Nebit out of North Carolina, coming in at 6'5", 235 pounds. So still kind of in that big slot range, similar to Briningstool. But if you're not familiar with Nesbitt's game, which he's been very good for the Tar Heels, as in 2022 he led the team in reception, or he was third on the team in receptions. Then last year he had over 580 yards with 5 tutties, so he's been very good for the Tar Heels. But you might be familiar with his dad, Jamar, who is a Hall of Famer in South Carolina. He played in the NFL for 11 years with the Panthers, Jags, and Saints. Nonetheless, when it comes to his son here, Nebit, the dude's his ability at the catch point is really good. So a little bit different there in comparison to like Briningstool. Nesbit, he uses that long frame and he uses it very effectively. Huge catch radius, very soft hands, 4.7% drop rate last season. On top of that, high points to football, doesn't mind having, like, won't shy away from contact if it means him having to, like, okay, well, I'm about to get popped, but I'm gonna make the catch. He'll do it. You like that. He also shows good body control in when just adjusting to passes. Top of that, really good seam threat. He's a very good athlete. Accelerates quickly, gets to top speed quickly, turns up field quickly, and just kind of wants to get those chunk plays after the catch. He was one of the best vertical options back in 2022, where he had the 5th most yards per route ran among pass catchers. There wasn't a tight end in the top 15 back in 2022. Now, those numbers did dip this year, but he was still in the top 15 of tight ends when it came to yards per route ran. So, talking about one of the better receiving options here at the tight end position. On top of that, his big frame kind of allows, or at least his long frame allows him to absorb contact relatively easily. As we'll see, it's not like he's thrown in line, so he's not really taking on bigger defenders. But nonetheless, this was a guy that he returned a kickoff for a touchdown back in 2022. So he actually has a little bit of return experience. And on top of that, a little bit of special teams experience in general. When it comes to the cons, I do think he's a bit stiff with his hips. Like, he's more of a straight line type of guy. Like, the change of direction's all right. The cut-in ability is okay. He could be a bit more crisp of a route runner. I think a lot of that has to do with him just dropping those hips, gearing down. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I kind of wanted to see a little bit more smoothness from him. But also, I mean, in that Mac Brown offense, RPO heavy, he's not going to be asked to do a ton of different things, whether it's like this dude's running flies and posts and the occasional stick routes and whatnot. When it comes to his inline blocking, hasn't just not asked to do it. 81.1% of his snaps last year came out of the slot. He is typically playing in the slot or offset. I would love to see this guy have more experience in line. I'm fairly confident, like, the play strength isn't there yet. He's going to have to continue to add to his frame. He's just a tweener at this point. He's just a tweener at this juncture. And like, if he wants to be viewed as anything more than a big slot, really elevate his draft stock, he's probably, you're going to want to put on an extra 10 pounds and at least play a little bit more in line. Real quick, I got to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. I absolutely love Underdog Fantasy because I love football, and now that the football season is far and away, it doesn't mean my betting season has to be, because they do all kinds of sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, esports even. They got you covered, whether that's weekly best ball or my favorite, higher lower on player props. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code BROSHMO, then they will give you a first-time deposit up to $250. That's right. That's right. So if you're gonna go and bet with Underdog Fantasy, use promo code BROSHMO, take advantage of this offer, but please bet responsibly and bet within your means. At number 8, we got Terrance Ferguson out of Oregon, coming in at 6'5", 255 pounds. Finally, we get in a little girth at the position after talking about some of these more big slots. We're actually talking about someone who has got that legitimate tight end size. He made first team all Pac-12, RIP Pac-12. I'll never forget you. Last season, and dude's just got ideal size, good hands for the position. Like, the length is solid, 4.5% drop rate over his career. Does a good job of bringing the ball into his body quickly and turning upfield to add on to the reception. Had 414 yards this past season, 13 Force missed tackles, love that. It's a great number to have. On top of that, the athleticism is pretty solid. Good feet. Very solid as a route runner. Does a good job of setting up and stacking defenders at the stem. He displays good contact balance as well. As I already mentioned, those 13 force missed tackles. And the dude is able to power through and speed by arm tackles relatively easy. When it comes to the blocking ability, as a blocker, he's pretty technically sound. He's very competitive as a lead blocker. He is very scrappy in engagement and can drive smaller defenders back. However, let's just go ahead and talk about some of the cons when it comes to him, because he is someone who struggles with early contact. If you watch his tape, he is constantly in motion. Like, he's a good athlete, and I get it, but he was constantly schemed up to get free releases off the line. So I am kind of worried about him playing in line, I guess, consistently. I mean, my worry isn't as big as it is for like the last two guys we talked about in Nesbitt and Briningstool, but it's still something that sits there in my mind. The play strength and the length is not there right now. Like, his anchor is a bit inconsistent, and he could do himself a favor by attacking with his hands a little bit more inside. I feel like he's got wide hands quite a bit. And another thing to note here, man, this dude is a walk-in offensive pass interference. Like, he isn't tested at the like in contested catch situations a lot, which may be viewed as a good thing, but I mean, because he's creating separation. But when he is tight in coverage, he tends to push off. Like, he had 5 penalties all in coverage last season. So, hey, like, the dude had a 60% contested catch rate. That's a great rate. And I like that you're competitive at the catch point. But you got to be a little more discreet with your hands. You can't just shove off. You got to you got to truly box these guys out. On top of that, he brings a hell lot of special teams experience. I think it's the most special teams experience currently in the whole class, or at least from the guys that I've seen, with 417 career snaps under his belt. That's going to get you drafted. That's going to separate you from a lot of guys in this class. So, big fan of that. Ferguson, big fan. Got him as a 4th round pick currently. At number 7, I have Benjamin Yurosek out of Georgia now. Coming in at 6'4", 247 pounds. And I have been a big fan of this cat for the last couple of years. He became a full-time starter for Stanford originally in 2021. In 2022, he was a second team All Pac-12, and then unfortunately last season, he started the first 6 games but missed the rest of the season with a shoulder injury, and then he finally transferred, because I was like, man, this guy should have transferred, in my opinion, a long time ago and gone to a more competitive college. And now he is there at Georgia, and I couldn't be more ecstatic because I am a huge fan of Yurosek. He basically plays the position like a power forward, and he's got a basketball background, so kind of fits, but like, his feet are so quick that he can just stun defenders at the top of routes. He uses his hands well, and he can play through contact. He can box out at the catch point. If you look at his contested catches over the last 2 seasons, he's 10 of 18, so great number there. On top of that, the release package is pretty darn good, regardless of where he starts his route. He's able to create immediate separation. He has just great footwork. He displays really good contact balance during the route. And if you give him a little bit of ground early, then you'd be making a mistake, because he can take advantage of that. He's a wonderful athlete. On top of that, also the versatility. Like, Stanford loved using this guy in a variety of roles, and he lined up in the slot quite a lot, where he was just a menace up the seams, but also he would be in motion. He would be motioned to the backfield and function as an H-back, as either a downhill blocker or someone who took handoffs. Like, over the last 2 seasons, 12 carries for over 100 yards. just kind of insane. Keep in mind, last year, his season ended early because of injury, man. I love a lot about this guy, and I'm so glad that he is just going to a place where he has a better opportunity and a bigger platform to shine on. Now, doesn't mean he's a perfect prospect. By no means. Got a 4th round grade on him. I think he's a work in progress as a blocker. Just needs to continue to add some play strength. There will be times where he just sets and just gets murked by a swim move. He doesn't control engagement, and he's just inconsistent when he does latch on. The yak ability just it's not there. Like, he's not very dynamic after the catch. Like, really, he's just trying to run past defenders, which is fine. Like, that's not that honestly, it's probably a better trait than barreling through them, if I'm going to be honest. Because, like, if you can run past guys, then you got some good speed for the tight end position. So I'm not trying to be too harsh there. When it comes to drops, because that has been a theme, man, and it's been a focus drops. Like, if you're unfamiliar with the term focus drop, it just means these guys that are trying to bring the ball in before, or these guys that are looking upfield to make a move before they actually secure the catch. These are, like, in this case, this is a very fixable thing. It's not like they just lack natural ball skills. So I'm not too worried about that, but it has been something that has shown up. Like, mainly last season. Typically, he's been very sure-handed during his whole career. Last season, he had I think it was like 2 or 3 drops, led to a 11.1% drop rate. Granted, smaller sample size, 6 games, but still, I think that those were the most drops he had in his any given season. So just something to keep your eye out on. I expect it to be better next year at Georgia. Just noting it, something to monitor. Maybe if the drop rate continues to be around that 10% like next year, then it's like, okay, what happened to your hands, bro? But I'm a huge fan of Yurosek, and if you didn't like the guy before, maybe you like him now. His grandfather is credited with inventing the baby carrot. Most ridiculous thing I've ever seen on a prospect's bio. Like, what? At number 6, I have Luke Lachey out of Iowa. This is my first day 2 grade among the tight end group. Coming in at 6'6", 253 pounds. I do believe he might be the oldest player I have on my top 10, as he will be 24 to begin his rookie season in the NFL. But again, haven't confirmed some of these ages because I don't know why it's so hard to get ages for prospects sometimes. Sometimes it's a task. It's a task and a half. But yeah, he goes to Iowa, and his father was actually an offensive tackle at Ohio State. So yeah, I don't know if his father's proud or disappointed in him. I imagine he's proud, but Lachey has been involved, at least heavily involved with the offense since 2021. Where he was utilizing that rotation there. In 2022, he had 7 starts behind Sam Laporta, but still, you kind of saw, like, you started to see him scratching the surface of his potential. And then, unfortunately, last year he played in the first 3 games, but then suffered a season-ending ankle injury, which actually probably cost him to return for the 2024 season. Now, when it comes to Lachey, the dude's got really good size, really good athleticism. Like, for a guy with a traditional frame, he just has that special layer of athleticism you don't often see at that size. Like, he covers a lot of ground with long strides, shows some fluidity in his routes. Top of that, strong and sure-handed. Like, he's been very dependable. His 3.4% drop rate in 2022, because keep in mind, 2023 only played 3 games because of injury. So I'm pulling from the 2022 stats since it's a larger sample size. But a 3.4% drop rate, really good. Top of that, in 2022, the contested catch rate, 66.7%. That's once again another solid number, man. He goes from pass catcher to ball carrier exceptionally quickly as well. Just shows good hand-eye coordination, and will follow the ball into his hands. He also just displays phenomenal tracking downfield when it comes to tracking the football. He's got the physicality and the play strength. Like, he's got a strong upper body. He relishes just physicality in general. He's a very willing blocker, and he loves going for that kill shot. And as a ball carrier, he's a bit of a battering ram. Hasn't really led to like a huge force miss tackle rate, which we could go ahead and talk about now. Like, again, he's just really a battering ram. He's not going to be a guy that makes you miss. And even then, you go back to 2022, only 3 force miss tackles. He's just not dynamic after the catch, nor does he have the speed to pull away. Again, he's more of a long strider than someone who is going to just like explode and create separation after making the catch. But his blocking technique definitely needs some work. He's got the size, he's got the power to be a good blocker. He's just not really technically sound, man. He tucks his chin when he does get stuck in engagement. There's a little bend at the waist, and he just too often goes for that kill shot. And I'd really just like him to try to sustain blocks and try to drive blocks with his legs, with his leg drive. Like, hey, you got that strength, you got that power to you, that go ahead and use it. Like, I think he could be a better displacer than he has been in the past. We'll see what strides he's made this season now that he's healthy, but got him here at number 6, 3rd round grade. At number 5, I got Amari Niblack out of Texas, coming in at 6'4", 231 pounds. We got another lightweight boy. Yes, we do, but this I'm using a little bit more projection. I will say there's another guy that I'm kind of projecting has a leap here in the top 5, but let's go ahead. Let's talk about Niblack, because he was originally at Alabama, former 5-star recruit. And he decided to transfer after this past season. Keep in mind, you had the Nick Saban retiring. You got DeBoer now coming in. I don't know if he, I don't know if he was like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna gel with this guy's offense. Or the minute Saban left, he was like, all right, well, better head to Texas. Sounds like they need a tight end. Ja'Tavion Sanders. Oh, that guy's in the NFL now. Oh, I wouldn't mind taking his spot. But Niblack, man, you turn on the tape and the dude's a tremendous athlete. Truly, incredible. Gets it, has long strides, can tear the top off of defenses. 11 of his 20 receptions last year went for 15 plus yards. Absolutely ridiculous. Top of that, very smooth mover, man. He isn't just a threat up the seams, but he's shown fluid hips, good footwork as a route runner, and as a ball carrier, he's really shown nimbleness in tight quarters and was able to break some long plays because of it. I feel like maybe that's part of his basketball background, trying to navigate through tight quarters, drive into the rim. Who knows? Maybe I'm just making that up. Maybe it has nothing. Maybe there's no correlation. But he is also a contested catch king. He has great length, and he does a good job of high pointing the catch point, attacks the ball really well in air, displays good body control and hand-eye coordination, 75% on contested catches. That is a great number. And what I like about him, even though he is 231, is he plays with that dog in him. He might not have the typical size profile, but the want to be physical is there. It truly is. He doesn't mind sticking his nose in as a blocker, and while there are some technique things he can definitely get better at, he is certainly trending in the right direction, and I'm not afraid of his long-term projection in line, because I think he's got that dog to him, but he does need to add weight. He's built more like a jumbo receiver right now. Needs to add a little bit more mass if he's going to sustain in line, but he's young. He also has the room to add to his frame. And drops, there were some focus drops on tape. I'm not too concerned about it, but had to bring it up. 9.1% drop rate this past season, but got a 3rd round grade on Niblack. At number 4, I got Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame, coming in at 6'5", 260 pounds, and this could be a hot take. Having him at 4, I've seen a lot of people have him at 2. Some might have him at 1, but I think this is going to be a really good tight end class at the top, potentially. If you're unfamiliar with Evans, he is a former 3-star recruit from the 2021 class. His father played for Penn, played football for Penn and Kent State. His mother played volleyball at Akron. His sister plays volleyball at Georgia currently. And this cat also not just was a tight end in high school, but he also played quarterback and punter. Kind of redonkulous. But unfortunately, last season, he played in the first 8 games with 7 starts and then missed the last portion of the year with an ACL injury, but still put up quite good numbers with 422 receiving yards. Only 1 tutty, but 10 forced missed tackles is kind of a huge number. Now, the dude has the prototypical build, ideal frame, great length for the position. He has the needed play strength to consistently play in line. As a run blocker, he's consistently getting good leverage and drives his feet to relocate defenders. Top of that, the contact balance, man. He's got a strong frame, and it's on display, man. He's just tough to bring down. 10 forced missed tackles this past season. And another guy that is very good at the contested catch. I mentioned the length, but combine that with his hand-eye coordination and the ability to high point the football, along with the frame to make the catch through contact. And we're talking about a scary red zone threat, man. He has, he wasn't really given the opportunities in the red zone, but the potential is certainly there. Strong hands, good security blanket. His drop rate last year, 6.5%. And he does a great job of finding the open field. He might not be the fastest guy, but he is a smooth mover. He is limber in his hips, and he can create separation with good footwork and crisp route running. On top of that, he just knows how to find the soft spot in zone. It is just a solid option to pick up easy yards. However, like I said, not the fastest guy. The launch speed just doesn't have high-end burst, doesn't have high-end launch speed, and he might struggle to consistently create separation, mainly in man coverage. On top of that, this one's more of a nitpick when talking about his yak ability, because we just said, man, the dude had 10 forced missed tackles last year. That's a hell of a good number. But I feel like he's more of a red zone threat, chain mover, that he doesn't have that necessary or added stink to his game to put him over the top when it comes to what he can do after the catch. He's just a battering ram. And I mean, in all honesty, he's been very successful in doing so. You know who else was a battering ram? Trey McBride coming out of Colorado State. So no hate here, man. This is just a bit of a nitpick. So I think some people might be mad about this. Think I have him too low. I got a 2nd round grade on him, but they might think I have him too low. I just think the guys in front of him are a bit more dynamic. At number 3, I have Tyler Warren at Penn State, coming in at 6'6", 257 pounds. Straight up, I didn't expect to like him as much as I did. I didn't, but I don't want to say I fell in love, but I definitely like Tyler Warren. He was formerly a 4-star recruit out of the 2020 class. He played quarterback and was actually recruited as an athlete. Also played basketball and baseball in high school. His father played football at Richmond. His grandfather played football at Wake Forest. So there's some cool things. On top of that, ends up being a good guy as well. He volunteers for youth football and youth basketball. Also does food drives for his church. So sounds like a stand-up dude. But let's talk about the athlete, because last year he had 12 starts. He ended the year with, ironically, 422 yards, same as Mitchell Evans. However, he had 7 tutties, all of them coming in the red zone, by the way. Let's just talk, because he's another guy, another big reason I like him is the special teams experience. Over 407 career snaps as a special teamer. That's always something I try to take into account. And it's more so relevant for day 3 guys, but think having that little bit of extra stank in your game is kind of nice. I don't know why. I feel like this is the third time I've said stank in your game. Maybe that's the word of the day. Stank. But the dude's a really good athlete. Like, really good. He accelerates so well off the line of scrimmage. He has the speed to thread it up the seams. He creates legit separation as a smooth route runner. Creates space with fluid hips. Knows how to sell with his shoulders and his hips. Top of that, there's some yak ability there. He's like not. He is not against being a battering ram as a ball carrier, but he has the athleticism just to run by guys and even hurdle defenders. He didn't have a high force missed tackle rate in 2023, but there's meat on the bone. Like, I expect that number to get better next year for him. Also, very versatile former quarterback who was recruited as an athlete, played multiple sports in high school. No kidding, this is an athlete. He lined up in line, he lined up in the slot, he lined up out wide, he lined up even in the backfield. He just brings so much versatility on top of just that athleticism, on top of his special teams ability. Great red zone threat. Like I said, he had 7 red zone touchdowns last season. He attacks the ball so well in air. He makes catches through contact. You honestly can't give him a little bit of space because of his burst. Maybe, like, honestly, a defender's best bet is probably just trying to outcompete him at the catch point. He has that dog in him, though. He has that dog in him. He isn't afraid of physicality. He doesn't shy away from contact as a blocker, and he also plays with active hands. Like, he is probably the most effective as a move blocker just because of his athleticism. You kind of want to get him to the second level. However, drops were kind of a big issue for him. Like, there are times where Warren puts his body in harm's way as a pass catcher, and it causes the ball to be jarred loose. Like, there are passes he's out here jumping for that I'm like, why are you leaving your feet, bro? Like, why? Because at that point, you are just putting yourself in a bad situation and giving defenders just an opportunity to jar that sucker loose. So I'd like to see that drop rate go down big time this year. The play strength, again, he's probably a better move blocker than someone who can play in line from a static position. He just doesn't have consistent power to move defenders along the defensive line, but definitely has the frame to add more muscle. Top of that, the launch speed, he's definitely more explosive than he is fast. Like, he was caught from behind on a few instances. You could go to the bowl game against Ole Miss, but he's explosive. He's going to get you a chunk of yards. But yeah, man, straight up, guys, I did not expect to like Tyler Warren as much as I did going into the tape. So I'm as flabbergasted as you are. At number 2, I got Oscar Delp out of Georgia, coming in at 6'5", 245 pounds. And this is the other guy I was talking about along with Amari Niblack in my top 5 that I'm kind of projecting. I'm projecting the jump because Delp is a very impressive athlete. Like, he has great burst off the line of scrimmage. He absolutely flies once he gets going in stride. He has smooth hips to create separation on in or out breaking routes. As a ball carrier, he often brings out the hurdle. Like, I don't think there was a guy trying the hurdle out more often than Delp. Top of that, the yak ability, man. He doesn't only run away from blockers, but or run away from defenders, but as I mentioned, he will jump over him. He is willing to go right through defenders to pick up extra yards. He had 5 forced missed tackles on those 24 receptions last season. And then there's the versatility, man, much like Brock Bowers. Delp, and again, this isn't a comparison, or this isn't a comp. I'm just comparing what Brock Bowers did, because we know Bowers missed some time last year. Delp was used in a similar manner. He was used just all over the alignment, man. He didn't play as much as Bowers did, but he did play quite a bit in the backfield, in the slot. Like, Delp was moved around. So I imagine it's going to be interesting how they use both Delp and Yurosek. The physicality, man. Georgia, let's show you. We can all acknowledge Georgia guys just know how to block. Georgia is regarded as one of the best strength and conditioning programs in the country. And typically, if you're not willing to block, you're not going to see the field much. Delp got that dog in him, man. He just isn't a pass catcher. He is someone who plays with a lot of urgency and grit as a run blocker, but he is still filling out his frame, man. Definitely should add some more play strength, but he's still developing his body. He's really young. He came out of the 2022 class, but as of right now, he's not someone who's going to drive or displace blockers in like the vertical run game. His ball handling, this was like freaking fascinating. Like, it felt like he was always treating the ball like a loaf of bread. Like, as a ball carrier, he could definitely do a better job of protecting the football. He had like a fumble here or there last season where a guy just came in and knocked it loose because he wasn't holding it tightly. And then you see it as a pass catcher. Like, the hell? Like, he is like late to bring the ball into his body, which at that point just gives defenders and the ground a chance to jar it loose. Like, he had one touchdown where like he got lucky and crossed the pylon, but like the minute he hit the ground, that ball was gone. Like, anywhere else on the field, I don't know if that's a catch. I mean, worst case scenario, it's a fumble / turnover, but I got to do a better job of just like, I don't know, man. This man's trying to treat the football like a lady. Ah, man. Throw that sucker around. Just, come here. You ain't going anywhere. Also, there's a little bit of lack of suddenness. Like, and I think it's just because he runs too upright. Like, sometimes on his, like, breaks. It's like, okay, get your hips down and just really gear down into your routes. So, just kind of a nitpick there. The athleticism's there. More of a technique thing, but I think Delp's potentially going to have a big year, and I think there's a good chance he could end up tight end 2, tight end 1 in this class. We just got to see the production from it. Like, I believe in it, but I mean, the production's not there yet. Obviously, played behind Brock Bowers, but it's not there yet. But once it is, this guy's going to fly up boards. And at number 1, I got Colston Loveland out of Michigan, coming in at 6'5", 245 pounds. Got a first round grade on him. That's more of the back end of the first round for me. But this dude made first team all Big Ten last season. Played a hella good. He was a former wide receiver in high school. Also played linebacker. Former 4-star recruit. And he has just proven to be a mismatch nightmare. Like, he is a wonderful athlete, gets to top speed almost immediately, eats up ground quickly with long strides, has a big wingspan, just makes him a scary weapon in the receiving game. The movement skills are just absurd at this point. His ball tracking is really good, already has that like big catch radius, but his hand-eye coordination, his body control, his ability to high point the football, I think truly sets him apart from some of the other guys in this class. The route run is really good. He's a fluid mover, changes direction exceptionally well, does a good job of selling his routes, knows how to free up space in the middle and find those soft spots in zone or in coverage in general. And he's got the versatility, man. Michigan lined him up everywhere. 49% of the time he was in the slot, 31% of the time he was in line, almost 20% of the time he was lined up out wide. That's nuts. That's nuts. And also, he would work out of the backfield in pistol formations for the Wolverines. Now, I will say, play strength, it's got to get better with him. Needs to add bulk, but he's got the room to do so along his frame. I'm not too concerned about it. But I will say he does a good job of redirecting defenders. Like, he's not someone who's going to displace or drive defenders away, but he does a good job at, like, okay, this guy's strong. I'm not going to be able to really force my way through, but I could definitely use their momentum against them and work them out of the way of the Russian lane. There's also a ton of focus drops. Like, this dude just needs to secure the ball before he starts to run. It's been just all over his tape. 10.3% career drop rate. Needs to get better. Like, because we've seen it from the contested catch, his ability to high point the football, come down with the football. The ball skills are there. It's just he really needs to iron this part out of his game. But man, I walked away from Loveland like, oh man, this guy is hella good. Watch out. But yeah, let's talk about some of the guys who just missed the list. Real quick, I want to talk about actually a couple of the guys that I didn't get a chance to watch. I'm hoping to watch them before the season begins. But that's Justin Jolly at NC State, formerly of Connecticut. Didn't get around to him yet. But I mean, when you got 24 missed tackles, I'm really, really, really excited to watch you. And then you had Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. Another guy that looks more like a jumbo receiver at 6'4", 230. But 13 forced missed tackles. No drops last year. Had 623 yards. So I am excited when I get a chance to get to the tape. But I wanted to get to some of the bigger name guys. So I'm hoping to at least get to those two before the season starts. One guy that literally just missed the list just barely was Jalen Conyers out of Texas Tech, formerly of Arizona State. But I would say he is in the same tier as Bryson Nebit, Jake Briningstool. I would say because he's a big slot as well. The difference is he's just got size to him. He's 265 pounds. But he's also not as fast as those guys, but he's a smooth mover. It's just for him, all the things that he did well in 2022, the contested catch rate, the forced missed tackles, they were all down. But to be fair, Arizona State is kind of a rebuilding program right now. So the transfer was probably the wise decision. So I'm really excited to his possibilities at Texas Tech. Then there's Jack Velen out of Michigan State, formerly of Oregon State. He was actually the final guy I watched for this list, and just kind of felt like he was probably a seam threat maybe, or a big slot. Yeah, I would say a seam threat because he's got the girth at 6'5", 246 pounds, but I didn't think he was that good of a blocker. And it's not like his after the catch numbers were great. I think he only had one forced missed tackle. So I was kind of like, he's fine, but I think he's more mid to late day 3 fine. Then I think some people really like this cat, Caden, was it Prescorn out of Ole Miss? The guy's gonna be 26 in the NFL. In his rookie year in the NFL, within the first couple of weeks, he will be 26. He is, I think, the oldest prospect I've come across thus far that I've been at least able to find a age on. So yeah, he's a man playing among boys right now. He is. He just is. But I do like his game. I definitely think he has a draftable grade. He's got good hands, good blocking technique. But I just don't think he's a high-end athlete. He's more like a run away from you type of athlete. On top of that, you got Brant Kuthi. I'm pretty confident some people are gonna have him high. I think PFF currently has him as a top 100 player, but he's gonna be 25 at the start of his rookie season. The NFL, he's coming off a serious knee injury that's cost him the better part of 2 years. I just feel like there's too much going against him, and his biggest trait was his mobility. How much will the knee affect that? Because he is an undersized dude at 6'2", 236 pounds. There's CJ Dupree out of Alabama. It just didn't really get used a lot in the passing game. But I ended up having a draftable grade on him. But it's if you're a blocking tight end, you're probably going to be at the back end of the draft. Gavin Bartholomew out of Pitt. He is just very raw and unpolished. Whether it's as a pass catcher, more so as his ball skills, but also as a blocker, complete work in progress. But he's got good size, so expecting good things for him. A couple of the other guys I'm going to mention here that I watched that I just got lower on my list is Rivaldo Fairweather out of Auburn. Again, someone who just feels like a jumbo slot, seam threat. And then Michael Trigg, who just needs to play football. Just needs to play football now at Baylor. But let me know who are some of your favorite prospects in this tight end class. Some of the guys maybe I should be keeping my eye on for the college football season. You can check out my other summer scouting right here, or you can check out some of my NFL deep dive videos right here. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.